All right, so today we're going to be digging into something pretty shocking.
Yeah.
Excerpts from Electromagnetism Life by Robert O. Becker.
It's a good one.
Yeah, and it seems like you're pretty interested in how electricity and living things, they kind of go together.
Yeah, there's some really fascinating stuff in there about, how we first figured out there was even a connection there.
Yeah, because it's not like it's obvious, right? Like you don't look at a person and think, oh, they're electric.
No, not at all. I mean, back in the 1700s, they thought animal electricity was practically supernatural.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Back then, didn't they think like our bodies were controlled by these weird mystical fluids like the humors and stuff?
Exactly. It's a far cry from the whole, electrical powerhouse image we're leaning towards now.
For sure, for sure. So how did we even start to figure out that there was this connection between like sparks and like our bodies?
Well, it all kind of started with this guy, Luigi Galvani. He was messing around with frog legs and static electricity.
Oh, boy.
I know, right?
Yeah?
Talk about your mad scientist setup.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's prepping this frog leg, with a metal scalpel, and a spark flies nearby, totally by chance.
Oh.
Yeah, and the frog leg twitches,
No way.
just from a nearby spark.
That's all it took. It was a total accident, but a huge discovery.
Wow, so it's like the frog leg was saying, hey, there's some electric stuff going on in here.
Yeah, you could say that. It completely challenged everything they thought they knew about how bodies worked. It was a huge deal.
So like a scientific revolution?
Exactly. Like when Vesalius challenged Galen's anatomical theories.
Oh, right.
For like 1,500 years, people believed Galen's work based on animal dissections.
Uh-huh.
Then Vesalius comes along, actually dissects humans, and boom, a whole new understanding of the human body.
Just like that.
It's those moments, when someone goes against what everyone thinks they know based on actual observation. That's what really pushes science forward.
That's so cool. So Galvani figures this out, and I'm guessing not everyone was immediately on board.
Oh, you know how it is. There's always someone. And in this case, it was Alessandro Volta. Oh, right. Volta, the battery guy.
The one and only. At first, he actually agreed with Galvani about the animal electricity thing. But then he changes his mind, starts arguing that the electricity came from the two different metals Galvani was using, not the frog itself.
Oh, so like a classic scientific debate.
Oh, yeah. And it got pretty heated. Even brilliant minds, they like a good rivalry.
I guess so.
Yeah.
And in the end, Volta's battery kind of stole the show, right?
Yeah, it's ironic, isn't it? Volta's invention overshadowed Galvani's findings, even though later experiments actually proved that injured tissues do generate electricity, just like Galvani thought.
Ah, so he was actually right all along.
He was. But sadly, he died before he got the recognition he deserved.
That's too bad. It almost seems like the scientific world just wasn't quite ready to accept the idea that our bodies could actually be electric.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, right? What if they'd have been more open to it back then?
Right. What if they'd kept digging into this whole body electric idea?
Exactly. It makes you think about how much the focus shifted to biochemistry in the 20th century. I mean, obviously biochemistry is important, but
yeah, of course.
But the Flexner Report, which was supposed to standardize medical education, it might have accidentally stifled bioelectromagnetic research.
Interesting. So you're saying there was a point where we kind of put this whole electric side of life on the back burner.
It's a possibility. And it makes you wonder what we might have discovered if we'd kept exploring both paths,
Yeah, that's a really good point. What if we missed out on some major breakthroughs by not paying enough attention to this whole body electric thing?
Exactly. And what about the bigger picture?
What do you mean?
Well, we've been talking about what's happening inside the body, but what about how external electromagnetic fields might be influencing us too?
I never thought about it like that.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you stop and think about it.
Right.
We're constantly bathed in the Earth's magnetic field, for example.
That's true. And that magnetic field hasn't always been the same, right? You were mentioning these magnetic field reversals.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds kind of intense.
It's definitely a dramatic event.
Yeah.
Imagine the North and South poles flipping. That's essentially what happens during a magnetic field reversal.
Wow. So how did those flips affect life on Earth?
Well, one theory is that these reversals acted as a kind of evolutionary pressure, favoring the organisms that were more adaptable to electromagnetic change.
That's fascinating. So you're saying that the Earth's magnetic field could have actually played a role in shaping the diversity of life as we know it.
It's a fascinating possibility, isn't it? And it gets even more intriguing when you consider biological clocks.
Oh, you mean like our circadian rhythms and stuff?
Exactly. Those internal rhythms that govern everything from our sleep cycles to the migration patterns of animals.
Hmm.
they might actually be influenced by variations in the Earth's magnetic field.
Wow, I never made that connection before.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, like those animals that migrate thousands of miles with incredible precision. It might be because they're tapping into these subtle electromagnetic cues.
It's like they have some kind of internal compass.
Exactly. And there's evidence that humans might have a similar ability too. Researchers have shown that our circadian rhythms can be disrupted when we're shielded from natural electromagnetic fields.
So what you're saying is that our bodies are constantly responding to these invisible electromagnetic forces around us, even if we don't realize it.
It certainly seems that way. But here's the big question. What happens when we introduce artificial electromagnetic fields into the mix?
Oh, you mean like from all the technology we use?
Exactly. Power lines,
Mhm.
cell phones, Wi-Fi signals. Are those messing with our internal symphony?
That's a great question and a little bit worrying, to be honest. So are all these artificial EMFs harming us?
Well, it's not quite that simple. The research is ongoing, and there's still a lot we don't know. It's a complex issue with a lot of factors to consider.
Right, I can imagine.
Yeah,
But it's definitely something to think about, especially given how much our world relies on technology these days.
absolutely. And speaking of technology, it's not all bad news. Becker's work actually led to some really promising medical treatments using electromagnetism.
Oh, that's right. I read about that. It's amazing how we can use something like electricity to heal ourselves.
It is pretty incredible, and who knows what the future holds. As we unravel the mysteries of bioelectromagnetism, we might discover even more incredible ways to treat diseases, enhance our health, and better understand the interconnectedness of life on this electric planet.
It's definitely a lot to think about. From those first accidental twitches of a frog leg to the potential of healing with electricity, it seems like this field is just bursting with possibilities.
It absolutely is. And the most exciting discoveries might be just around the corner waiting for someone curious enough to ask the right questions.
And who knows, maybe those discoveries will be sparked by someone listening to this very deep dive right now. Thanks for joining us on this electrifying exploration. We'll leave you with that thought. So we're left wondering, what if we missed out on some big breakthroughs by not paying enough attention to this whole body electric idea?
Exactly. And it's not just about what's happening inside the body either.
Oh.
It's also about how external electromagnetic fields might be influencing us.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, we've all played with magnets, right?
Yeah.
It's not hard to imagine that larger magnetic fields like the Earth's could have an effect on living things.
That's a really good point. I never really thought about it like that. But yeah, we're constantly bathed in the Earth's magnetic field. And you mentioned earlier that it hasn't always been the same, right?
Right.
Like these magnetic field reversals.
Exactly. It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, sounds kind of apocalyptic when you put it like that.
Well, it's definitely a dramatic event. Imagine the North and South poles flipping. That's essentially what happens during a magnetic field reversal. And the evidence suggests these reversals were pretty rapid geologically speaking anyway.
How rapid are we talking?
Oh, just a few thousand years.
A few thousand years. That still sounds pretty slow to me.
Well, in terms of human timescale, sure.
Yeah.
But in geological time, that's like flipping a switch.
I guess that makes sense. So how did these magnetic flips actually affect life on Earth?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. One theory is that these reversals acted as a kind of evolutionary pressure, favoring organisms that were more adaptable to electromagnetic change.
Okay, I can see that. So like the creatures that couldn't handle the flip just kind of died out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's actually some pretty compelling evidence to support this.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Well, remember those radiolarians we were talking about earlier?
Yeah.
Those single-celled creatures with the intricate skeletons?
Oh, yeah, they're like little pieces of art.
Right. Well, they're also incredibly sensitive to environmental changes, which makes them excellent indicators of past events.
So they're like little living time capsules.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And when researchers looked at the fossil record, they found that certain radiolarian species went extinct at the exact same time as these magnetic field reversals.
Wow. So it's like the magnetic field flipped and poof, they were gone.
Pretty much. It's pretty compelling evidence that these shifts had a real impact on life.
That's amazing. So what you're saying is that the Earth's magnetic field could have played a role in shaping the diversity of life as we know it?
It's a fascinating possibility, isn't it?
It really is. And it gets even more intriguing when you consider biological clocks. You know, those internal rhythms that govern everything from our sleep cycles to the migration patterns of animals.
Oh, absolutely.
And those are fast.
I am a total slave to my circadian rhythm.
Well, it turns out those biological clocks might actually be influenced by variations in the Earth's magnetic field.
Really? I never would have guessed that.
Yeah. It's one of those things you don't really think about until someone points it out. But it makes sense when you consider that some animals can navigate thousands of miles with incredible precision. How do they do that?
That's always blown my mind, like they have a built-in GPS system or something.
Exactly. And it might be because they're tapping into these subtle electromagnetic cues, like a sixth sense almost.
Wow, so you're saying humans could have that too?
Well, maybe not to the same extent as some animals, but there's evidence that we might have a similar ability, albeit less pronounced.
Like how? Well, researchers have shown that our circadian rhythms can be disrupted when we're shielded from natural electromagnetic fields.
Oh, wow. That's pretty convincing. So what you're saying is that our bodies are constantly responding to these invisible electromagnetic forces around us, even if we're not aware of it.
It certainly seems that way.
Huh.
But here's the big question. What happens when we introduce artificial electromagnetic fields into the mix?
Okay, so that's kind of a freaky thought, right? Like our bodies are potentially syncing up with the Earth's natural electromagnetic vibes. But then we go and add in all this artificial stuff. We're talking power lines, cell phones, Wi-Fi everywhere you go. Is all that messing with our systems?
It's a quote that's sparked a ton of research and, to be honest, a fair bit of debate too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the thing is, these artificial EMFs, they're often way weaker than the Earth's natural field. So their effects can be really subtle, and they might take a long time to show up.
So it's not like you just get zapped and know something's wrong.
Exactly. It's not like that old Frankenstein movie.
Yeah.
We can't just put people in a lab, blast them with EMFs, and see what happens.
Right. Ethically speaking, that would be a nightmare.
For sure. So scientists have to look at things differently. They study large populations to try and find patterns. Like, do people living near power lines have higher rates of certain health problems?
Oh, like that study that was mentioned in one of these excerpts, the one linking power frequency, magnetic fields, and suicide rates. It kind of freaked me out.
Yeah, that one definitely gets your attention. But you got to be careful with that kind of study.
How so?
Well, just because two things happen around the same time or in the same place, it doesn't automatically mean one causes the other. Correlation doesn't equal causation, as they say.
So it could just be a coincidence.
Exactly. There could be other factors involved that no one's even considered.
So it's not like we found definitive proof that artificial EMFs are harmful.
Not yet, anyway. Some studies have shown potential links, but others haven't been able to replicate those findings.
So it's still a bit of a mystery then.
It's a really complex puzzle. And honestly, that's what makes it so interesting to study. There's still so much we don't know.
But hey, at least we're looking into it, right?
Exactly. And it's not all doom and gloom either. Remember, Becker's work led to some promising medical treatments using electromagnetism?
That's right, I'd almost forgotten about that. It's wild to think we can use something like electricity to heal ourselves.
It really is amazing.
Yeah.
And we're already doing it. Those bone growth stimulators, they use targeted electrical currents to help heal fractures.
That's incredible. So what else is on the horizon for bioelectromagnetism? What's next?
Well, there's a lot of fascinating research happening around acupuncture.
Really? I always thought acupuncture was more like a mystical thing.
It definitely has that reputation.
Yeah.
But some researchers believe that acupuncture points might actually be areas where electrical currents flow more easily. And if that's true, then acupuncture could be working by influencing the body's electrical system.
Wow, that would completely change how we think about it.
It's pretty mind-blowing, right? And that's just one example. Who knows what the future holds? As we keep unraveling the mysteries of bioelectromagnetism, we might discover even more incredible ways to treat diseases, enhance our health, and just better understand how life works on this electric planet we call home.
It's definitely given me a lot to think about. It's amazing how far we've come from those first accidental twitches of a frog leg. Now we're talking about healing with electricity and tapping into the body's electrical system. It's mind-blowing stuff.
It really is. And the best part is we're just getting started. There are so many more discoveries waiting to be made.
And who knows, maybe those discoveries will be made by someone listening to this very deep dive right now.
I like that thought.
So if you're out there and you're feeling inspired by all this talk of electricity and life, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and who knows, maybe you'll be the one to unlock the next big secret of bioelectromagnetism. Thanks for joining us on this electrifying adventure, and until next time, keep those brain cells buzzing.